The night was heavy and silent, the kind of silence that made soldiers hold their breath. The stars above were brighter than usual, but they did not bring comfort. Instead, they brought fear, because something was moving among them. Huge shapes, drifting like shadows across the sky. At first, people thought they were clouds, but clouds did not glow with green light. Clouds did not move in perfect lines. The soldiers on the ground tightened their grip on their rifles. They had seen many things in war, but nothing like this. The air smelled of iron and smoke even before the first alien ship appeared. The earth itself seemed to tremble as the enormous vessel broke through the clouds. Its black surface shined like glass and strange symbols burned on its side. Then, with a scream that shook windows miles away, the ship landed. The ground cracked, dust rose, and the soldiers covered their eyes. When the dust cleared, figures walked down a ramp. They were tall, thin, with skin that shimmered like metal. Their eyes glowed faint blue and their mouths curled into something that was not quite a smile but not quite anger either. It was worse. It was mockery. One soldier whispered, "God help us." But the aliens only laughed. The sound was sharp, like metal scraping metal, cruel and cold. They looked at the rifles in the soldiers' hands and laughed harder. One alien spoke in a voice that echoed through the helmets of every human. "Is this what Earth calls warriors?" Fragile, soft, blind creatures with toys in their hands. The commander of the human unit shouted an order. His men raised their weapons and fired. The night filled with noise. Bullets tore the air. Explosions lit the darkness. But the aliens barely moved. A glowing shield formed around them. The bullets bounced away like raindrops against glass. The aliens stood tall, laughing louder as the soldiers emptied magazines and launched grenades. The humans tried rockets next. The blasts shook the ground, but when the smoke cleared, the aliens were still standing, untouched. One of them clapped slowly, a sound full of cruelty. "Pathetic," he said. The soldiers felt anger, but fear crept deeper. For the first time, they felt their weapons were useless. For the first time, they realized they were prey. The aliens lifted their strange weapons, long staffs that hummed with energy. With a single motion, beams of light shot out, tearing holes into tanks, melting metal like butter. Men shouted. Some were thrown off their feet. The smell of burning filled the air. The aliens kept laughing. "This is not war, this is a game," one sneered. "We expected challenge, but we only see insects." Still, the soldiers did not give up. They regrouped, tried to flank the enemy. They ran through smoke, mud sticking to their boots, hearts pounding. Some managed to get close, throwing knives, firing point blank. But the shields flared again and the aliens hardly noticed. One soldier leapt forward, screaming, only to be caught mid-air by invisible force and thrown back broken. The laughter grew louder. From a distance, people hiding in ruined buildings watched with tears. They saw their protectors fall. They heard the cruel laughter of the invaders. The hope inside their hearts grew smaller. It seemed impossible. How could Earth fight against such power? How could men defeat gods with shields and lightning in their hands? The alien commander raised his hand, and silence fell across the battlefield. His glowing eyes swept over the line of tired, dirty, bloodied men. "Enough," he said. "We could destroy you all in one breath. But why waste the effort? Watching you try is more amusing. Watching you fail is sweeter than victory itself." The soldiers looked at one another. Their bodies trembled, but not with fear alone. It was anger. It was shame. They were humans. They had fought wars before. They had bled for freedom. Yet here they were, laughed at like children. Their courage mocked, their weapons useless, their spirits bent. One soldier clenched his fists and shouted, "We will never kneel." His voice broke through the night like thunder. The other men echoed him, shouting, screaming, trying to drown out the alien laughter with their rage. Their hearts refused to break, but their chances grew smaller with each second. The aliens began to walk forward, calm, unhurried. Each step made the earth shiver. Each step made the humans step back. "Run," one alien said with a grin. "Run so we can hunt you." Their voices were poison, their laughter a hammer against human pride. The soldiers stood their ground, but deep inside they all knew. This battle was lost, and yet in the shadows beyond the battlefield, something stirred. The soldiers did not know it. The aliens did not sense it. Not yet. But the story of this night was not finished. The humans were not alone, and the aliens would soon learn a lesson they would never forget. The battlefield was still burning. Smoke rose high into the night sky. The once proud human soldiers stood in broken lines, their armor scratched, their faces covered in dirt and ash. They had tried everything: bullets, rockets, grenades, even hand-to-hand attacks, but nothing worked. Their courage was real, but courage alone was not enough against an enemy like this. The aliens stood untouched, tall and calm. Their shields still glowed with faint light, shining like cruel stars on the ground. They looked at the soldiers the way a hunter looks at a trapped animal, cold, amused, and without fear. One alien leaned close to another and whispered something. Then both burst out laughing. The sound carried across the field, sharp and heartless. The humans hated that sound. It was not just the laughter of an enemy. It was the laughter of mockery. It said, "You are weak, you are small, you are nothing." And still, the soldiers stood with rifles in their hands, even if their rifles meant nothing. The alien commander stepped forward, his tall figure glowing under the lights of the burning vehicles. He pointed at a destroyed tank and said in a loud voice, "This is your strength? A box of iron that melts like ice?" The soldiers glared, but they had no answer. Their strongest weapons were jokes to these invaders. One soldier fired a desperate shot. The bullet flew fast, but as it touched the alien's shield, it melted away into sparks. The alien smiled, reached out and caught the soldier with invisible force. The man screamed as he was lifted into the air. Then with a flick of the alien's hand, the body crashed into the ground like a broken doll. The aliens' companions roared with laughter again. The soldiers shouted in anger. Their voices were strong, but their hearts were heavy. They attacked together, moving as a unit, rolling through smoke, firing from every side. The ground shook with explosions. Flashes lit up the dark. For a moment it looked like the humans were pushing back. But when the dust cleared, the aliens were still standing, hardly moving, hardly caring. The alien commander raised his arms and spoke again. His voice echoed like thunder. "You humans fight like children, loud and messy, but useless. Do you think bravery matters when you have no power?" He laughed again, and his army joined him. The sound was so loud, so cruel, it felt like knives cutting into human pride. The people hiding in the ruins heard it too. Families, children, old men and women, all trapped, all praying for a miracle. Their tears fell when they saw the soldiers falling. Their hearts broke when they heard the laughter. It felt as if Earth itself was being humiliated, as if all of humanity was on its knees before these invaders. But the soldiers did not kneel. They bled, they crawled, they stood again. Every time a man fell, another stepped forward. Their voices shook with rage. One soldier shouted, "We are not afraid of you," and fired until his gun clicked empty. The aliens only laughed harder, as if bravery was the funniest thing in the universe. The commander of the soldiers clenched his fists. He wanted to give hope. He wanted his men to believe. But even he could feel despair crawling in. He had fought wars before, but never against an enemy that treated battle like a comedy show. He whispered to himself, "How do we win against laughter?" The aliens began playing with their weapons. They fired beams into the ground, cutting deep holes in the dirt just to scare the humans. One alien pointed his staff at the sky and burned a line across the clouds. His friends clapped and laughed, like children at a festival. For them, war was entertainment, and humans were nothing but actors in their cruel game. Some soldiers lowered their heads, shame burning in their eyes, not because they were cowards, but because they could not protect the people. They thought of their families, their homes, their Earth, and they felt helpless. The aliens could see it, and that made them laugh louder. One alien sneered, "Look at them, even their spirits are breaking." But deep inside the soldiers, a fire still burned. They would not surrender. Not now, not ever, even when mocked, even when pushed to the edge. They were human, and humans did not kneel. One soldier raised his rifle and shouted, "We are not finished." His voice was weak, but it carried through the smoke. His brothers echoed him, voices raw and angry. They stood shoulder to shoulder, daring the aliens to come. The alien commander tilted his head, watching them with glowing eyes. "Interesting," he said slowly. They still resist even when defeat is certain. His voice grew colder. Perhaps breaking them completely will be more enjoyable than killing them quickly. The laughter began again, cruel and endless. The soldiers stood in the firelight, broken but not bent. They looked like shadows of warriors, small and fragile. But their hearts refused to die. The aliens could not understand it yet. But this defiance was dangerous. It was a seed of something greater. In the ruins, a child whispered to her mother, "Will the soldiers save us?" The mother hugged her close, tears on her face. "They will try. They always try," she said. And in the distance, the sound of alien laughter filled the night like thunder, drowning out prayers, drowning out hope. But behind that laughter, behind the humiliation, something unseen was already moving closer. Something the aliens had not expected. The battlefield lay quiet for a moment, smoke rising like black ghosts into the night sky. The laughter of the aliens still echoed, sharp and cruel, but deep underground, far from their glowing eyes. Humans were planning. In a hidden base carved into the rock, officers and scientists gathered around a glowing table. Their faces were pale, their voices low, but their eyes carried a spark of hope. The commander of the base slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot keep fighting like this," he said. "Our soldiers are brave, but bravery means nothing against shields and lightning. We need something they do not expect." The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. The soldiers on the surface were losing. Humanity was losing. An old general leaned forward, his voice rough but steady. "We still have one chance," he whispered. "A project we started years ago, when we feared enemies from beyond the stars. It was never used, because the world laughed at the idea. But now, it may be our only hope." The younger officers frowned. Some thought he was joking. "You mean them?" one asked. His voice carried doubt but also curiosity. The general nodded slowly. "Yes, them. They were trained for this. They are not machines. They are not humans. But they are loyal, stronger, faster, and they understand war in their own way. They are the allies mankind forgot." The scientists exchanged glances. One of them opened a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs, blurred images of dark shapes running through training fields, leaping over walls, dragging down targets. Their eyes glowed in the night like fire. Their bodies moved with raw power. They were made ready, but never called. The scientist said, "Maybe this is the time." Above the ground, the soldiers fought and bled, but in the tunnels, hope flickered again. A radio buzzed, carrying broken voices of men on the field. "We cannot hold much longer," one voice said. "Their shields, nothing works, we're falling back." The commander of the base closed his eyes. His decision was made. "Prepare them," he ordered. "Bring them out. Tonight they fight." Far away, in dark hangars sealed from the world, cages rattled, growls echoed in the air. Heavy paws scratched against metal, breathing loud and wild. They had been waiting, not knowing what for, but ready. Soldiers walked down the aisles, staring into the cages. Their eyes widened, fear and awe mixing together. One whispered, "Are we really using them?" Another answered, "We have no choice." The aliens above still laughed. Their commander stood among the ruins of human weapons, mocking every effort. "We gave you a chance to show strength, and you showed nothing," he sneered. His army laughed louder. They thought the war was over. They thought Earth was already broken, but deep below, doors opened, alarms blared, lights flashed red, soldiers moved quickly, guiding the cages onto trucks, engines roared. The night trembled as convoys rolled out of the hidden base carrying the secret of mankind's last hope. The men driving the trucks kept glancing back, hearing the growls, feeling the power behind the bars. None of them dared to speak, but all of them prayed. In the ruins, surviving soldiers stood in broken lines. They were tired, their ammunition low, but still their eyes burned with defiance. The aliens saw it and mocked them again. "You fight for nothing. You die for nothing." One alien hissed, but the soldiers did not answer. Somewhere inside they knew something was coming, something their enemy could not see. The alien commander raised his staff and prepared to finish the battle, but in the distance, headlights cut through the smoke. Engines growled like thunder, trucks rolled into view, soldiers stepped aside, whispering to each other, "It's them. It has to be them." Their hearts beat faster, their blood felt hot. For the first time, the soldiers smiled, not with joy, but with anticipation. The aliens turned their heads, curious, amused. "More toys?" one said. "More fragile machines to break?" Their laughter started again, but it was softer now, less certain. For the first time, they felt something different in the air, a tension they could not name. The truck stopped, soldiers jumped down, faces hard. They moved quickly, unlocking the cages. Their hands shook not with fear but with respect. The growls grew louder, sharp claws scratched metal. Then silence for a moment, a silence heavier than any gunfire. One soldier whispered under his breath, "Show them who we are," and pulled the first lever. The cage door swung open. Glowing eyes appeared in the dark. Muscles rippled, teeth shined. The shape stepped out. Not human, but not weak. It was something ancient, something Earth had trusted for thousands of years. The aliens stared, confused, then burst into laughter again. "Animals?" one mocked. "You bring animals to fight us?" But the soldiers did not laugh. They stood taller, their spirits rising, for they knew what these creatures could do. They knew the aliens had just made their biggest mistake. The cages opened one by one. Growls turned into roars. Paws hit the ground with force. The night trembled not with alien power, but with something wilder, older and more loyal than any machine. The secret weapon of Earth was here, waiting, watching, ready to strike. The aliens smiled and laughed again, but behind their glowing eyes a shadow of doubt began to grow. They had no idea what was coming. They thought victory was already theirs. They thought the humans had nothing left. But in truth, the game was about to change. The night shook as the trucks stopped on the battlefield. Their engines rumbled low, smoke curling from their exhausts. The soldiers who had been pushed back stood frozen, staring at the convoy that had just arrived. They did not know exactly what waited inside, but hope began to rise in their hearts like fire. The aliens tilted their heads, glowing eyes scanning the trucks. Their laughter began again, sharp and mocking. "More toys, more metal boxes," one of them said. The alien commander lifted his hand and silenced his troops. He wanted to see what humans had brought this time. He expected another weapon that would fail, another machine that would burn. The soldiers guarding the convoy moved quickly. They jumped down, their faces tight with focus. Their hands trembled as they unlocked the cages, not out of fear of the enemy, but because of what they were about to release. Inside the trucks, low growls echoed, deep and heavy. The sound made the ground itself vibrate. One of the soldiers, on the field, whispered, "Please let it be real." Another clutched his rifle tighter. He did not care what it was, as long as it gave them a chance. For too long they had fought with no hope. For too long they had been humiliated. Now something different was coming, something alive. The first cage door creaked open. The sound cut through the smoke-filled night. Inside, a pair of glowing eyes appeared, golden and fierce. A shape stepped forward, its paws hitting the earth with a thud. Its body was powerful, fur shining under the burning lights of the battlefield. Its teeth flashed white as it growled at the aliens. It was a dog, not an ordinary dog, but a trained warhound. The aliens burst into laughter at once. Their voices filled the air like knives. "Dogs, this is your secret," one shouted. "You send animals to fight warriors of the stars?" Their laughter was cruel, echoing louder than the explosions, but the humans did not laugh. They stood straighter, their eyes locked on the hounds. More cages opened, and more dogs stepped out, their shoulders broad, their eyes wild with fire. They moved in perfect unity, waiting for the command, waiting for the fight. The soldiers looked at them with respect, not fear. These were not just animals, these were warriors trained for battle, loyal to the last breath. The alien commander smirked. His voice dripped with mockery. "Fragile men, Fragile weapons, and now fragile pets. Do you think beasts will save you? His soldiers howled with laughter again, but there was unease hiding behind their glowing eyes. They did not understand why the humans looked so confident. Then the command came, short and sharp. "Release them," the soldiers shouted, and the dogs charged. Their paws thundered against the earth, their growls rose like a storm. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. They rushed straight at the aliens with speed no human could match. The aliens raised, their shields still laughing. They expected the dogs to smash against the barriers and fall. But something strange happened. The dogs darted left and right fast as lightning. Their movements were unpredictable. Their instincts guided them, not logic, not machines. They lunged low, snapping at alien legs, claws tearing into the ground. Beneath the shields, one alien swung his staff, a beam of energy flashing out, but the dog was already gone, leaping sideways, teeth sinking into the alien's arm. The creature screamed, a sound that silenced the laughter for the first time. Blood, dark and strange, sprayed across the ground. The soldiers on the field gasped, their eyes widened. They had seen something no weapon could do, break through. The other dogs followed, attacking together. They worked like a pack, circling, biting, pulling the aliens down. Shields flared and flickered, cracking under the relentless force of tooth and claw. The aliens shouted in anger now. Their laughter was gone, replaced by confusion. "How? They are only beasts," one cried. But the beasts did not stop. The soldiers cheered. Their voices rose with hope for the first time in the war. They shouted encouragement, their spirits lifting as they watched the impossible. Men who had felt broken now stood tall again, their rifles raised, their courage burning bright. They moved forward, fighting beside their oldest allies. The aliens tried to regroup, but the dogs were faster. They struck at weak points the aliens never thought could be attacked, biting at joints, pulling weapons from their hands. Their jaws were stronger than steel, their loyalty unshakable. The aliens who had mocked them now screamed in fear. The commander of the aliens stepped back, his eyes wide. His voice was no longer steady. "This is not possible. This is not logical. They are only animals." But deep inside he knew. These were not ordinary creatures. They were the heart of humanity itself, the bond of man and beast forged through thousands of years. The battlefield changed, smoke still rose, fire still burned. But now the laughter was gone, replaced by growls, barks, and human voices shouting with pride. The aliens staggered, losing ground, their confidence broken. One soldier knelt beside a dog, patting its back between bursts of fire. "Good boy, show them what Earth is made of," he said. His eyes burned, with new strength. Around him, other soldiers shouted and fought harder. The tide had turned. The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. Their shields cracked under every attack. Their lines broke. Their commander's smirk vanished. The sound of laughter, once so strong, was drowned out by the thunder of paws and the roar of soldiers. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were not amused. For the first time, they were afraid. The battlefield was alive with chaos. Smoke rolled across the broken earth, fire burned in the distance, and the night echoed with the sound of growls, barking, and alien screams. The dogs had arrived, and for the first time the aliens were no longer laughing. The hounds moved like shadows, fast and unstoppable. Their muscles rippled with power. Their eyes glowed with fury. They worked together as if their minds were connected. One leapt at an alien shield, snapping and clawing, while another rushed low, biting at the legs beneath. The shield flickered, cracked, and in seconds the alien was pulled down. The alien screamed as teeth tore through his armor. His staff clattered to the ground, sparks flashing as it hit the dirt. Another alien rushed to help, but a second dog leapt high, jaws locking onto his arm. The alien's laughter turned to a shriek of pain. For the first time, the soldiers on the field saw it. Fear in alien eyes. The humans roared with joy, their hearts, heavy with despair moments ago, now surged with courage. They raised their rifles and charged forward, firing into the chaos. Their bullets found targets this time, striking aliens distracted by the fury of the dogs. Shields that once deflected every shot now broke under the pressure of fangs and firepower combined. A dog darted between explosions, leaping onto an alien twice its size. Its jaws clamped onto the alien's throat, dragging him down. The soldiers cheered louder. The aliens stumbled back, their line breaking. Their perfect control was gone, replaced by confusion. The alien commander shouted orders, his voice booming, but his soldiers were no longer steady. "Hold your ground," he roared, but the ground itself betrayed them, covered in ash, fire, and the blood of their own kind. The dogs tore through their formation like a storm, leaving nothing untouched. One soldier, his face smeared with dirt, laughed for the first time in days. "Look at them. They bleed like us," he shouted. His words spread hope through the ranks. Men who had nearly given up now fought with renewed rage. Their bayonets flashed, their grenades exploded, and always the dogs led the charge. The aliens swung their staffs wildly, beams of light cutting across the battlefield, but the hounds were faster. One beam seared across the ground, missing by inches as a dog rolled aside and leapt back at its target. Another beam hit a charging dog, but even burning, the animal did not stop. It lunged forward, dragging the alien down before collapsing. The soldiers cried out in fury and fired in revenge, cutting down the attacker. The aliens had never faced such enemies. They understood machines, they understood men, but they did not understand loyalty that fought even beyond pain. They did not understand a creature that would sacrifice itself without hesitation. For them, battle was sport, but for these dogs, battle was devotion. The alien commander snarled, his glowing eyes narrowing. "They are only beasts, kill them," he ordered. But his soldiers hesitated. Their laughter was gone, their arrogance cracked. They swung their weapons, but their hands shook. Their voices trembled as they shouted. The sound of fear spread like fire among them. The soldiers saw it, and they pushed harder. A sergeant raised his rifle and screamed, "With them, push with them!" His men charged alongside the dogs, shoulder to shoulder. Man and beast struck together, bullets, teeth, and courage collided with alien power, and this time it was the humans who did not break. An alien tried to retreat, stumbling backward, but a pack of dogs ran him down, dragging him into the dirt. Another alien fell as soldiers surrounded him, blades flashing, gunfire echoing. The perfect invaders who had laughed so easily were now falling one by one. The battlefield changed. The sound of laughter was gone, replaced by chaos. The growls of dogs, the shouts of men, the screams of aliens. It was a storm the invaders had never faced. The aliens looked at their commander, desperate for guidance, but even he had no answer. A soldier knelt to reload, a dog standing guard at his side. Its chest rose and fell, blood staining its fur, but its eyes never left the enemy. The soldier patted its head, whispering, "Good boy. Stay with me." Then they charged again together. Every moment more aliens fell. Their shields shattered like glass under relentless attacks. Their weapons slipped from their hands. Their laughter had died completely, replaced by the sound of their fear. The proud army of the stars was being broken by soldiers they had mocked and dogs they had dismissed. The alien commander raised his staff and unleashed a blast of light, knocking men and dogs back. For a moment, silence fell, smoke swirling in the air. The commander's voice cut through the night. "This is not victory, this is chaos." But even as he shouted, a growl rose behind him. A massive dog leapt, slamming into his back, dragging him to the ground. The soldiers roared in triumph. The aliens gasped in shock. The commander fought the beast, struggling beneath its weight, his glowing eyes wide with rage and disbelief. He had never imagined this, never expected defeat from creatures so small, so fragile, so human. The tide had turned. The humans, broken and humiliated before, now stood tall again. Their courage was alive, their spirit unbroken, and with their oldest allies beside them, they were unstoppable. The aliens staggered. Retreating step by step, their weapons shook, their pride shattered. The battlefield belonged to Earth now, not to invaders. And as the dogs howled under the burning sky, the humans realized the truth. The war was not lost. It had only just begun. The night was no longer filled with alien laughter. It was filled with growls, barks, and the heavy sound of boots charging forward. The aliens who had once stood proud and untouchable were now stumbling back, their glowing shields flickering, Their perfect formation shattered. Fear had entered. Their eyes, the kind of fear they had never known before. For centuries they had conquered worlds, defeated armies, crushed civilizations. They believed themselves untouchable. But here, on Earth, against men and their loyal beasts, their arrogance was breaking. A dog tore into an alien's arm, ripping away the staff that once burned through tanks. The alien cried out, falling to the ground. He had never imagined pain like this, never thought he could bleed at the hands of creatures he once mocked. Another alien swung his weapon wildly, but the dog was already gone, circling, coming from behind with a snarl. The soldiers moved closer, rifles firing, bayonets flashing. They fought with new strength, standing shoulder to shoulder with the hounds. Every step forward pushed the aliens back. Every cry of pain from the invaders filled the humans with fire. They were no longer victims, they were hunters. One alien tried to retreat, his voice high with panic. Shields failing. They are breaking us. But his commander silenced him with a glare. Still, the truth was clear. The shields that once turned bullets into sparks now cracked under the fury of fangs and fire. The invaders were losing control. The alien commander raised his staff. Energy. Swirling at the tip, he fired into the ground, explosions ripping through the dirt. Men and dogs were thrown back. The commander shouted, "Stand! Do not fear beasts!" But his soldiers no longer listened. Their eyes darted, their steps faltered. Their once perfect discipline was gone. The humans saw it. They saw the cracks forming, and they pressed harder. "Don't stop, push them!" shouted a sergeant. His men charged, their voices rising, grenades exploded, rifles spat fire, and always the dogs led the way, snapping, clawing, breaking shields. The aliens fell one by one. A dog leapt onto an alien's chest, knocking him flat. The soldier beside it fired point blank, ending the fight. "Good boy," the man whispered, patting the hound before charging again. The bond between man and beast grew stronger with every moment. It was no longer soldiers and dogs, it was one army, one pack, fighting as one. The aliens could not understand it. They had technology, they had power, but they did not have loyalty. They did not have creatures willing to die for love, willing to bleed for their pack. And that was something no weapon could defeat. The alien. Commander's glowing eyes burned with rage, but even he felt it. The fear creeping into his soldiers, the weakness spreading. He clenched his teeth and shouted, "You are warriors of the stars. How can you fall to this?" But his men looked away, ashamed and trembling. One soldier on the human side laughed bitterly. "Look at them, they're scared of dogs," he said. His words carried across the field. The aliens heard it, and it cut deeper than any bullet. The invincible army of the stars, afraid of Earth's oldest companions. The commander struck down another hound with his staff, but even as it fell, 3 more charged him, snapping, clawing, forcing him back. His shield glowed bright, cracking under the relentless force. For the first time, doubt touched his heart. He had underestimated them, underestimated Earth. The battlefield burned with chaos, but the balance had shifted. The humans fought harder. Fueled by hope, the aliens fought weaker, drained by fear. Every roar of a dog, every shout of a soldier made their pride shrink smaller. A young soldier, face streaked with blood and dirt, screamed, "They're not gods, they can bleed." His words rang out, and his brothers shouted with him. Their voices thundered through the night, shaking the invaders more than any weapon. The aliens began to fall back step by step. Their laughter was gone, their arrogance shattered. They were creatures of fear now, desperate to survive. Their glowing shields cracked, their weapons slipped, their discipline collapsed. The humans saw it clearly. They had once been broken, mocked, humiliated, but now the invaders were the ones trembling. The roles had reversed, and it was all because of the dogs, the loyal warriors who turned the tide. The alien commander tried to gather his strength. His voice roared across the field. "We are not finished, we will crush them." But deep inside, he knew the truth. He could feel the fear in his men, he could see the doubt in their glowing eyes, and he could hear the sound that haunted him now, not human screams, but the howls of Earth's hounds. The soldiers pressed forward. The dogs snapped and roared. The aliens staggered, and for the first time since they landed, they wished to retreat, wished to escape. Their arrogance had been broken, replaced by the very thing they once mocked humans for: fear. And as the night burned with fire and smoke, one truth became clear. The aliens had come to Earth laughing, but now it was Earth that was laughing back, not with voices, not with jokes, but with the sound of loyal beasts and unbroken men pushing them into the dirt. The battlefield burned like a furnace. Flames rose high. Smoke covered the stars. The ground was broken with craters and shattered weapons. The smell of ash and blood filled the air. But through the chaos came the sound that no alien expected: the deep growls of dogs and the unbroken voices of human soldiers. The aliens were retreating now. Their once perfect lines were gone, their shields cracked, their weapons slipping from their hands. The creatures who had mocked Earth, who had laughed at soldiers, now stumbled back in fear. Their glowing eyes darted from man to beast, searching for escape. The soldiers saw it. They felt the shift in power. For the first time since the invasion began, they were no longer the hunted. They were the hunters. Their boots pounded the ground. Their rifles flashed, their voices roared like thunder. Side by side with the dogs, they pressed forward, never giving the enemy time to breathe. A huge warhound leapt onto an alien's chest, dragging him down. The soldier beside it plunged his bayonet into the alien's side. The creature screamed, its voice breaking into panic. The dog barked and growled, standing guard over the fallen enemy. The soldier patted its back once and shouted, "Forward!" Together they moved on, leaving the invader broken in the dirt. The alien commander fought hard. His staff glowed with violent energy, blasting soldiers and dogs aside. But no matter how many he struck, more came at him. Loyal hounds snapping at his heels, brave men charging through fire. He swung his weapon wildly, his glowing eyes filled with rage. But behind that rage was something else: fear. One soldier raised his rifle and fired again and again. Another hurled a grenade that exploded at the commander's feet. Smoke and fire swallowed him. For a moment, silence followed. But then a growl rose from the flames. A massive dog burst through, jaws locking onto the commander's arm. Dragging him down, the alien roared, his pride cracking with every second. The other aliens froze. Their leader was on the ground, his shield shattering under the relentless attack. Soldiers surrounded him, rifles aimed, bayonets ready. The commander's glowing eyes darted wildly. He tried to rise, but the dog refused to let go. Its teeth were sunk deep, its body heavy with fury. The commander screamed, "We are gods. You cannot win." His voice echoed, desperate, but the soldiers shouted back, "We are humans, and this is our world." Their voices shook the battlefield, carried by fire, smoke, and the thunder of paws. Bullets ripped through the air. Grenades exploded. The commander staggered as the dogs tore at him. His once perfect armor cracked. His glowing eyes dimmed. He raised his staff one last time, but before he could strike, a pack of dogs lunged together, knocking him flat. Soldiers rushed in, their blades flashing, their shots tearing through his body. The alien commander gave a final cry, a sound of rage and disbelief. His staff fell, its light fading, his eyes dimmed completely. And with his fall, the battlefield grew quiet for the first time. The remaining aliens looked on in horror. Their leader, the one who had mocked Earth, was gone. Fear spread faster than fire. The aliens dropped their weapons, their glowing shields flickered out. They stumbled back, desperate to escape. Some tried to flee into the smoke, only to be chased down by the dogs. Others fell to the rifles of soldiers who no longer feared death. The invaders who had come laughing were now silent, broken, defeated. The humans stood tall, bloodied, bruised, but unbroken. They looked at one another, at the bodies of their fallen brothers, at the hounds standing beside them. Their hearts swelled with pride. They had done the impossible. They had faced gods and shown them the strength of men. The dogs stood in the firelight, their fur scorched, their sides bleeding, but their eyes still burned bright. They panted heavily, tails low, ready to fight again if needed. The soldiers walked among them, kneeling, patting their heads, whispering words of thanks. "Good boy," one soldier said softly, tears in his eyes. "You saved us all." Above, the sky was still black with smoke, but the stars began to shine through. To the soldiers, They no longer looked cold and distant. They looked like a promise, a reminder that Earth had survived, that humanity was not weak. The alien commander's final words echoed in their memories. "We are gods," he had said. But gods had fallen tonight, brought down by men and their oldest allies. Humanity was not alone. It had never been alone. At their side stood the loyal beasts that had hunted with them, fought with them, lived with them since the dawn of time. The soldiers gathered their wounded, burying their dead. The dogs sat beside them, silent, watchful, sharing their grief, sharing their pride. Together they looked across the battlefield, the fires still burning, the alien bodies scattered. Earth had been scarred, but Earth had not been broken. And as the first light of dawn touched the sky, a soldier whispered the truth that every man felt in his heart. "They laughed at us, but they will never laugh again." His words carried through the silence, answered by the distant howl of a warhound, strong and unyielding. The soldiers lifted their heads, and in that moment, they knew. Humanity had won. Not because of weapons, not because of machines, but because of loyalty, courage, and the bond between man and beast.